Welcome to Simple Kicking with your host, James Harrison.
This is the Special Teams Lounge. We got Lou Hedley of the Miami Hurricanes and Max Duffy of the Kentucky Wildcats. The amount of knowledge and experience that you guys have is going to be really valuable, so I'm really pumped to get to talk to you guys. So let's go ahead and get started with the first question.
I guess we both came through the same program, Pro Kick Australia, run by Nathan Chapman, John Smith. It was great. I didn't really hear about it. I kind of came over here on a trip, and Lou's probably got his own story, but I came over here on a trip and went to a Cal versus UCLA game. And then one of my buddies that I was sitting with happened to have a friend that was punting at Ole Miss at the time, Will Gleason. So, kind of heard about it through him. He told me that I should give it a shot, and I kind of pursued it from there, and it's all worked out pretty well. Lou's probably got his own story though.
Yeah, mine's somewhat similar. I mean, we both went to Pro Kick Australia. I actually found out about Pro Kick through the media back home. Duffy signed with, not really signed, but just went with Pro Kick, moved to Melbourne, and I seen that. And then they sort of check you out and see if you've got what it takes to come over here and kick a ball. And from there, I had to go to junior college first because I didn't have my AA, so I had to go to San Francisco for 2 years. So in order to graduate for Miami, but Nathan Chapman and John Smith do a great job of getting us boys over here, and now we're here. It's good.
Once upon a time, y'all had normal lives where you guys were playing other sports and you were going home and you could talk to your mom and dad and have lunch and dinner locally with your friends. And you guys both left that on the other side of the globe.
Yeah, I guess for myself and Lou would be the same. I guess we were both sitting around kind of one level underneath professional. I played professional for 3 years, but I ended up getting cut from that. So sitting one level underneath, it's not a very lucrative lifestyle. And I guess you're kind of looking for bigger and better things and wanting to progress on with your life and do things that are really hard and really challenging and things that not many guys, particularly from Australia, get to do. And I guess that's why I made a decision to come over here and give it a shot. It's an interesting process, definitely going through from Australia. We have to, we don't get all the offers and decide kind of thing. The coaches kind of choose it all for us. So we just get told one day where we're going, which is always quite interesting the day you find out. But to come over here and be able to play in front of, 100,000 people in the SEC is something that we really don't get a whole lot of back home unless you're playing professionally. So, further your degree and get your education, it's a great opportunity and something I'm very grateful for.
Now, just touching off what Duff said, it's, I was working in construction. Duff was obviously, he played in the pros for a bit back home in the Australian Football League, but I was sort of just working and, playing the level under, which I guess, I don't know how you can compare it to anything over here. I guess, the closest thing maybe is like the XFL, but, the players don't really get paid, big dollars, enough to make a proper living out of playing semi-pros back home. So, I did that for about 4 or 5 years. I was working and, like Duff said, I was getting pretty bored with everything back home and heard about what's going on over here and, the opportunities that it gives us, come from Australia. I didn't even graduate high school, so, getting the opportunity to come back over here and, get my, college degree is amazing. So, it's unreal.
Like in soccer and football, kicking a soccer ball is not the same as kicking a football. Is punting y'all's Aussie rules football the same as the, big game ball that you guys kick now?
It's very similar. I guess slightly different shape. So it definitely takes some getting used to. I know there's a fair bit of difference between what we call a Sharon back home and a V1 over here. V1's not my favorite football choice, but I guess the skills kind of translate. Definitely wearing a helmet and pads and all that kind of stuff for the first time takes a bit of getting used to, and just everything, learning the game as you go through. I don't know if Lou's had one this year, but I had one this year for the first time where I kind of had to kick it back through the end zone for a safety, and just things like that. Like, you're just learning on the fly and you don't really know exactly what's happening, which makes it really hard to adjust. But we definitely do come over here with a skill set, I guess, that's unique, that helps us out.
Yeah, because you guys can do the rugby style and the rollouts, but then you guys are also like learning how to hit the pro style punt as well, right, Lou?
Yeah, so the ball's pretty similar back home, so we do the rollout. I think, with the college rules of, the gunners not being able to leave as soon as the ball's snapped. When you hold the ball a little longer with the rollout, I think, when you're in college, like a coach, I asked if I could, go pro style, but I don't think, the coaches see what you can do just rolling out. So they're like, no way. But it's a little different. I think the difference between sharing back home, sharing football is, it's less pointy, it's more of a sweet spot. So you can sort of kick it anywhere and it's going to go. With the, college football's like they're saying, it's a little pointy. You have to sort of get under it a little more. But yeah, we're always practicing pro style, staying ready for it when that time comes. So.
Well, what's funny is at the next level, which I cannot wait to see you guys progress and eventually make an NFL roster, dude, the pro style punt, it's not that much, it's not that popular as everyone might think, right? It's trained so much at the early levels, but at the at the pro level, it's kind of going extinct.
Yeah, I guess so. I think our program would like to say that they've had a little hand in that, and definitely some Australian guys that have come over. I think one thing that I'd say to people is one of the biggest progressions, I think, in all of college football, I'd say over the last 10 years has been the punting skills, how good punting has become. I look back maybe 3 years ago, I was bored one night and looking at some of the guys, and there was barely guys that were averaging over 44. Now, if you don't average over 44, you're not even in the top 50, 60 guys. So definitely the skills have progressed. I think a little bit of that has been the Australian guys coming over here and probably bringing in a unique skill set, but also the American guys have come along with that, and they've been challenged to be even better now with some more competition. And a guy like Braden Mann averaging over 50 for a year, unbelievable. So I guess it's just kind of progressed as we've gone on, and the spiral is kind of not as accurate, I guess, as some other kicks can be. So
just going off what Duff said, I think in the league, you even see a lot of punters now just doing the, two-step end over end instead of spiraling now at a lot of teams. So it definitely is progressing. But definitely until, I don't think the rules are going to change in the league. So, it's going to be a two-step, and hang time is always going to be important coming into the league instead of holding on to the ball for as long as you can, letting the gunners down like you do in college.
So, Max, last year you were the Ray Guy Award winner, and one of the finalists with you was Sterling Hofrichter. And also to mention, Lou, you were also named a semifinalist. Both you boys were named semifinalists this year, so hats off to you. That's pretty awesome. But I've charted every single punt this year in the NFL, and this is the prettiest that I have of a mid-season review. As you kind of look at this, what stands out to you, Lou or Max, whichever, of Sterling's numbers, who's one of y'all's peers?
I guess just look at the balls on the boundary. I think that's one thing that we try to do in college as well, and why maybe the rollouts work so well. But for a guy to be able to do this with spiral is really, really impressive. Just the ability to put the ball on the boundary and make sure that those balls aren't going down the middle. There's definitely a lot of guys that can bang it and kick it a long way down the field, but I don't think it helps if it's right down the middle. So the ability to put the ball down on the sideline and make sure you're limiting returns is obviously always huge.
I think position of the ball in the league is really important when you have the returners and the skill set, the people you have to kick to at the next level, that you rarely see a fair catch. So putting it on either outside the right numbers or left numbers, you're giving, your punt team an opportunity to create that net and sort of keep them to that boundary side instead of having a full open field. I think, placement is very important.
Just quickly on that as well, it's for me and Lou, and particularly the guys that do roll out and I guess kick it all over the field. We kick a lot of, roll out to the right, kick it left. We find we get a lot of two returner looks as well. So it makes it even more important that wherever you're telling your team the ball's going to go, it does go there. Because as I found out 2 weeks ago at Florida, if you accidentally hit one off the side and it goes to the wrong bloke, it ends up in 6 points for the other team or 7 points for the other team. So even more so when they start putting two guys back, it's got to be exactly where you tell them you're putting it.
You guys bring up so many good points. Do y'all want to nerd out about punting for a minute? Is that cool? Basically broken it down by what you guys talked about as the boundary, which would be the boundary in between the numbers, which is green, blue, which is between the top of the numbers and the hash, and then red, which is in the middle of the field. What I did was, this is all data from the first 8 weeks of the NFL season, and these are the return yards based on where the ball lands. So, I mean, you can see kind of like an outlier over here on the red is if you're punting the ball in the middle of the field and it lands between the 10 and the 20, the average return yard is 9.2 yards versus if you punt it in the same area, 10 to 20 yards, and put it between the numbers and the boundary in the green zone, it's 2.8 yards. So that's like that's 6.5 yard difference.
Yeah, and I guess playing basketball growing up, a bit of terminology of like that boundary is your extra defender. So not giving them two options to go either way is big, and being able to trap them into the boundary, like Lou said, and making sure that you can leverage that boundary is really big. Also, I think one other thing as well that people don't think about, that we talk about a lot at Kentucky, is if we're making the returner go sideways and he's catching the ball running sideways, it's really hard for him to change his momentum and go forward. Whereas if he's able to sit under that ball and come forward into it, then he's starting off his return already. But if we can make him, like I said, go sideways or even backwards, his momentum isn't going in the way of his return, and that's really big for our team.
This is Lou Hedley and Max Duffy, who you just heard, punter for the Kentucky Wildcats, Mr. Duffy, and Mr. Hedley is the punter for the Miami Hurricanes. It's funny, Hedley Duffy sounds like some kind of like insurance adjusting firm or like real estate firm. So guys, you guys are so used to playing like organically, right? So Lou, is one of your strengths putting the ball, like Max was saying, using the boundary as your extra defender?
My first year, last year, I didn't do a very good job of putting the ball outside the numbers. I think my stats were pretty good, but I got lucky. We have a really good athletes running down there for me. I actually called Duff before the season a couple of times and just talked football with him and talked about punting, and he gave me some tips. And I guess and even my coaches, we just emphasised. We went over every single punt from last year, and we realised I was essentially, all my big balls were going down the middle. I guess I wasn't opening my hips up. I didn't really trust kicking to the boundary in case it would go out too early. But this year during quarantine, I worked a lot on, generating that power and the follow through, and, with accuracy on the outside of the numbers is really important. It's helped me a lot this year, just, placing that ball outside the numbers with the gunners we have. It makes it hard for the opposition to return the ball.
When you guys had that conversation, Lou, what did you and Max talk about before the season?
Duff went over my film, and he sort of told me that I've got a lot more time. I can hold the ball a lot more. I was I didn't really read the rush when I got out there last year. I sort of just went out there, sort of put myself under stress that I didn't need to. I had a lot more time than what I did. So this year I go out there and, I'm counting who's come. I can sort of tell if it's a hold up or I need to get rid of it. And that's helped me a lot. Duff just saying, just relax, go out there. If you can now I can tell whether, they're going to hold up or rush me. So that's helped a lot. And obviously giving yourself that extra point, whatever of a second to hold it, really helps with, ball placement as well, compared to where I was just sort of going through the same steps every single punt last year, whether it was a rush or not. And this year I kind of, I hold the ball a lot longer if there's a hold up, and it's helped me a lot. Year
over year, Lou, you have improved 8% on your distance. 8% in 1 year. If I could do that right now, I'd be in the NFL, right? That's a huge number, especially at the age that you're at. But you're literally continually learning how to punt. So what has changed in the last year? I know you talked about relaxing. Is that the difference that is behind the 8% increase from 43.9 yards to 47.2 this year?
Yeah, I think when you hold the ball a little longer, every time I do that, there seems to be a big ball when it's a hold up, and I sort of stride out a little slower, and you get time to do it. But other than that, I think it's a lot to do is mental. When you're going out there stressing about people coming and blocking the punt, you already just want to get rid of it quicker, and you forget about all these basic little things you've practiced your whole life when it comes to kicking. And I think I go out there now and, you know, it kind of feels like I'm just, you know, at a practice period. I feel really calm out there, and I hold the ball and just, you know, do what I know, and it's helped me a lot.
All right, this is where I like to nerd out some more, Duff. Let's talk about the mental part of this game, man. Is it a big piece in your game?
Yeah, no doubt. I think one thing that I hope, if I've brought anything to a little bit on college football, is just being able to play the game. And I say that in a mental state as well as a physical one. You know, and that's kind of the conversation that me and Lou had, is Lou's a great talent. Lou's a much better kick than me, but I just felt like sometimes you've got to be able to dictate to them. So if they're trying to get a return, then just hold on to the ball even longer. And now obviously that's, you know, it's easier to do that at college level than at NFL level, but you got to play the game and the rules that allow you to play it. So, you know, at Kentucky, we'll change our scheme or however we set it up with our gunners every single week. Because as you know, if you give a special teams coordinator the same look, they start to scheme up blocks and et cetera, et cetera. So I think part of the mental thing is just also being able to play the game and making sure that you're always trying to see it as a proactive and kind of positive play rather than, hey, let's not stuff this up. But I think my mental side would come from just preparation. I was actually listening to your podcast with Thomas Morstead. I thought that was great, the way that he approaches it, and he was such an interesting guy to listen to. But for me, it just comes from, if I prepare as best as I possibly can and do everything I can in the years, months, weeks leading up to the game, then I know that I've done everything I possibly can. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I've given myself the best opportunity to succeed. So for me, it's making sure that I don't really care what happens on a Saturday, to be honest, because I know I've done everything I can. And if it doesn't work out, like it definitely has, multiple times it hasn't worked out, but that's okay. The percentages and the stats say that eventually I'm going to have a bad one, but eventually I'm going to have a really good one too. So I don't get too caught up in the results on Saturday. I just am really, really pedantic about my preparation and what I do and like I said, the years, months and weeks leading up. You know, you can't just decide to all of a sudden try and have your best week one week. You got to make sure that from January 1, whenever you guys are starting, or January 10, when the preseason starts, that's when, you know, you're going to find out if you're going to be a good kicker or not, because you got to prepare well.
Don't give me the politically like, hey, this is like the right answer because this is what really, how hard is it how much work do you really put into this thing?
I'd definitely spend a lot of time working out in the gym, and like I don't really look like it, but it's punting specific stuff. It's also looking after your body as well. So I spend a lot of time in the training room making sure that, you know, I'll be ready to go. If it's kind of knee tendonitis stuff that a lot of punters get, or looking after your quad, etc. So, you know, I put a lot of time into that. I'm studying sports psychology. I'm about to get my master's. So a lot of time into preparation of, you know, mental things at practice, making sure that practice is as good as it can be and as realistic as it can be. Trying to put yourself under that kind of pressure that you would get in a game. But I guess me and Lou are pretty similar. We kick a lot of balls, probably more than what's recommended, just because I don't really go off film. I'm not sure if Lou does. I've never really asked him that. I don't go off film. I just go off feel and touch. So if it takes me 50 to 70 balls pre-game to try and get that feel, then that's what it is. It's not a technique thing for me. It's just to go out there and kick it. And when I start feeling good about it, then I can slow down a little bit. But if it takes me a long time to get into it, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. You know, during the week, I think last year I kicked a little too much during the week. I think, you know, the days we had off during practice, during season, I'd go out there and kick for like scout punt and stuff like that. Whereas this year I slowed down a bit, but as Duff said, I kick a little too much for what the coaches like. Before the game, they're always telling me to slow down and ease up, just relax a little bit. But yeah, I'm the same. I you know, you just keep kicking until you sort of get a smooth little rhythm going. And once you start, you know, hitting 4 or 5 balls in a row where you're putting them where you want them and you're feeling good, it's sort of popping off the boot, you sort of just, slow it down a little bit.
Man, slow your roll. Do your thing. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys don't seem too stressed out about this podcast, and you guys don't seem too stressed out about your craft.
I mean, it's just kicking a ball at the end of the day, so it's pretty fun. It really doesn't mean much. We can try and pretend that it does. It really doesn't mean a whole lot in the game. It's definitely important, but it don't matter if your quarterback throws 8 picks or your defense can't stop them. So our role is important to try and help the team, but it really doesn't matter. And I think me and Lou have a lot of fun with it. You know, obviously coming over from Australia, if you're not going to come over here here and have fun and enjoy it, then like, what's the point of coming over? My favorite parts of the game is when I'm not playing, and maybe at Florida at 3/4 time when there's some songs going on, or at Texas A&M when things are going on. Like, those kind of things are the best, because as a punter you actually get to enjoy the game. You get to sit back and have a good time with it. And I think if you're always sitting there stressed about it, then that's not going to do you any good. It's just about enjoying every experience that we get to have, and the big crowds we get to play in front of, and the players we get to see and play and watch and all that kind of thing. So you just got to have a good time.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said last year, I was a little bit more uptight, and I'll be walking up and down the sideline, sort of thinking about my next kick a little too much. And I mean, I had the conversation with Duff before the season, and just a lot of people. I'm a lot more relaxed this year, and like Duffy said, I enjoy the game a lot more now. I sit down, relax with the kicker and the snapper. All of us boys just sit down, relax, and actually enjoy to watch the game of football. It's been amazing seeing Derek, come here from Houston and do his thing this year. We're having a lot better year this year, which is, always a lot more fun. So we've only lost one game this year, and we've got 2 more left. It's been a really enjoyable season, even though, with COVID restrictions, it's not a normal season. It's been kind of weird. It's been very strange, but, making the most out of it, a bad situation. And I'm still having a really fun year, and, looking forward to, my last year next year.
Man, Isaac Pearson is a young pro kick, Australia. He's a different generation of you guys, but he DM'd me and he wanted to know, how do you guys get out of a rut, and how do you guys reset mentally? And it sounds like the answer was just given, which is, man, just relax, enjoy the game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, at the end of the day, like I just say to my other specialists sometimes, and you're going to have, like, statistically you can't be perfect, and the better you prepare and the better you are, the better your stats are going to be over the long run, right? But all you can do to help that is prepare as best you can. You can't do any more than that. There's no secret formula, there's no magic to it. You're just going to, if you prepare as best you can, you give yourself the best opportunity to succeed, and then the stats will show for themselves. So I mean, even like I go through sometimes with the guys, and I had to do it myself early days, is like, if something goes wrong, how am I going to respond? Like, actually thinking about that before it happens. And what if I shank the first 2 and they both get returned for touchdowns? Does that mean the next 3 are going to be bad, or do the next 3 need to be good? And does anyone really care? Not really. I mean, I always say to the special teams guys as well, there's like 8 billion people in the world, and maybe 1 million are watching. Like, there's a whole lot of people that don't care. So don't get caught up in thinking that people care, and it's the end of the world to people. It's really not. People won't remember me and Lou in about 3 or 4 years' time. They won't remember the shank that you had somewhere at Mississippi State or wherever. They probably already forgotten about it 2 hours after the game. So don't get too worked up about it. Enjoy it. It's actually fun when you mess up, because you get a little bit of a laugh, and that's part of the fun of. If it was too easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. So it's always good to have some negatives, and it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially as a college punter, it's bound to happen. You're going to get a bad ball, like 100%. You're learning. That's the process. College, I mean, I think I was worked up after I hit bad balls last year. You'd come off and you sort of stress a little bit, and all that does is the more stressed out you are, you're just going to forget the simple little mechanics that are so easy to do, which are causing the mess up. And the calmer you are out there and more relaxed, and the less you care about stuffing up, is like the better you're going to perform. Because if I hit a bad ball, if I miss hit this ball, you go sit back down. You're probably going to get another opportunity to come out there and do it again. And like you said, if no one really cares that much. You think you do, like you think people do, you think the team cares, but everyone loves you. You just go back out there and do your thing.
And just to add on to that as well, sometimes, like, I always think about different perspectives, and it might be easy for me and Lou to say that because we have had a bit of success at the college level, and sometimes, like, you can get stuck into that little rut of, well, hey, I'm not up the top of the stats, so I don't have this confidence coming from what I'm doing. All I would say to that is again, and I always go on about this, but just your preparation. Then work out what in your preparation is failing you, because everyone that's playing college football has a big leg. Work out out what it is, whether it's the way that you're looking after your body, whether it's what you're doing in the weight room, whether it is the mental side of the game. Do you need to go see a sports psych? Just work out what it is in your preparation that's letting you down, and then your results will come better on the field.
For you guys that are listening, young guys, Americans, Australians, I don't care what you are, we're all human, and you're listening to two guys that are learning how to relax. On one of them, it got him the Ray Guy Award in 2019, the nation's top punter. On the other, you see an 8% increase in 1 year just by chilling. And in 2020, both of these boys are in the top 10 in the NCAA in punting. These are the things they're talking about. Taking it easy, having fun, enjoying the game, keeping it simple, working super hard, and investing the time and energy and money into the preparation. Let's go.
Yeah, that's it. It's an awesome opportunity. You can't take it for granted. I know Lou, when he was doing his trade stuff and when I was chopping down trees, I didn't think I'd ever be in this sport. So it's really fun. And if you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
These guys got big smiles. Look, this is not a YouTube podcast. This is one of these things where we've all got face for radio, but I'm looking at this Zoom screen and both these guys have huge smiles on their face. And it seems like you guys are really grateful for everything that you guys have and the experiences that you're, enjoying.
Yeah, definitely. I think, looking back on what I was doing back home, I was just scaffolding in construction, working out in the damn desert for 4 weeks at a time and coming back. Coming over here, I'm living in Miami. I mean, I think as far as a specialist goes, I think Miami's up there with one of the best spots. We just chill and, it's warm weather all year round here. So, I mean, if you're complaining in this place, I think, there's something wrong.
Is Jose teaching you any Spanish? And that Jose, I'm talking about Borregales.
Yeah. Nah, not really, but he's been great coming in. He's doing his thing this year. I think he's the best kicker in college football as of right now, and I'm excited to see what he does, next year.
Well, what's really cool is there's only one other duo that has a semifinalist in Lou Groza, which is given the nation's top kicker, in Ray Guy, which we've talked about. So both Lou Hedley and Jose Borregales are up for the nation's top kicker and punter. Over at Georgia, it's kind of the same thing. They got Jake Camarda
and Jack Podlesny.
Dude, that's phenomenal. You guys are chilling. You guys are meshing. You guys put the work in COVID-19, quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting my degree. I'm getting my master's degree, which is what I want, and I'm getting the experiences that very few people in America, let alone Australia, are able to have. So I enjoy every single day. I love all the guys here at Kentucky, coaches. Everyone's made it such a great place. I hate that it snows. That sucks, but everything else is great. Met some great guys along the way as well, not just the Australian guys, but some really good guys. I got to hang out with Keith Duncan in the All-American kind of night that we had earlier this year. That was really awesome. Keith's a great guy. So just guys like that you meet along the way have been good. And it's such a good experience.
Dude, how cool is Keith?
Yeah, well, I always joke with him that he wanted to come to Kentucky his whole life, but we never offered him because he's not good enough. But, obviously to take his second pick at Iowa was good. And I'm glad that he got his second choice at Iowa. And he's been great. I'm guessing if you didn't say his name, he didn't make the semi-finalists for the Lou Groza, which is a bit disappointing, but Keith's a great kicker.
The last thing I want to ask you, Duff, you've played against some pretty legit either, return men or had gunners. Could those guys go play at the highest level of Australian rules?
No, because they can't kick. So they're unbelievable athletes. And when I came over here, that was one of the coolest things, just to see these guys in the weight room. We spend a lot more time running back home with our sport, but unbelievable athletes, but can't kick. You need to be able to kick to play our sport. Obviously, that's why we have a bit of success coming over here. My strength and conditioning coach always jokes that he could take 22 of our guys on our team and he could beat any Australian team. But unfortunately, there's just too much that goes into kicking on the run. And you know what it's like. People don't respect specialists until you have to do the job themselves. So it's a little harder than it looks.
Yeah, I mean, AFL's a tough sport. But I don't know. I think, if, American, skill players, NFL skill players were going over to Australia, I think it'll put a few Australians out of business, but...
Man, well, this has been a fun roundtable, probably the most interesting roundtable because I came in with some expectations, and those expectations were they were quelched. I mean, you guys are superb human beings. You're really incredible athletes and a lot of fun to hang out with. And guess what? I could understand every word that you guys were saying.
That's what I was already.
You can thank... No, you can thank Brad Wing and Jamie Keane. Jamie Keane was my teammate. He's from Miners Rest, and Brad's from Melbourne. So those guys have some pretty thick accents.
Yeah, no doubt. Those two were two legends. They started it all off. So, I've actually met Jamie Keane a couple of times. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, shout out to my boys. Hope you guys are doing well. Man, the next time I talk to you guys, I have an idea that it'll have some 3 letters behind it, and that'll be NFL. So thank you guys so much for joining this little special teams roundtable.
It was a cool little conversation. Yeah, I'd love to get back on in the future, and we can hopefully, even if it's next year, we can have another conversation just like this one. Yeah, and thanks for having us on.
Yeah, man, it's so much fun. I mean, seriously, guys, you guys coming in to just hang out. It's like Thomas Morstead said, whatever you give, it makes you grow.
Yeah, no, he was great. That was such a great pod. And I guess if I was going to add one thing, I think Lou kind of downplayed his ability to look after reptiles. We probably could have got into that for about 30 minutes, but maybe.
Hey, the only thing that I know about reptiles is that I have alligator cowboy boots.
Well, you can come make some snake boots out of the things I got here, mate.
All right, this is that was Lou Hedley and Max Duffy. If you enjoyed the content, man, drop a like, comment, or even subscribe. It would be really cool to hear from you. Also, you can find Simple Kicking on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even TikTok.